Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out my channel, and I'm going to be working on a 97 F250 today. The two things I'm going to do is replace the fuel filter, and I'm not going to cover that repair because it's identical to the F150 fuel filter change that I did in the past, and I've already done a video on that. I'll put a link here somewhere, either in the description down below or in the video, and you can click on that. It'll take you to that if you'd like to see how to change your fuel filter and why you should go with a Motorcraft filter. But today I want to talk about the differential cover, and basically there's nothing wrong with my cover that I currently have on the truck other than it's rusty. For the process of cleaning it up and painting it and all that, it's just worth to buy a used cover. And I did say used, but it doesn't look used, and that's because Amazon, where I purchased this, I'll put the link down below for it, Amazon has warehouse deals to where you can buy used parts, used electrical equipment, used whatever. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's used. It just means that it cannot be sold as new. You get really good product for less money, and that's what I'm going to show you. Here you see the fuel filter I was talking about. I also got that at Amazon. And the cover, and you can see it says Amazon warehouse deals inspected. This cover comes with a gasket. This is for a 10.25 Ford, basically the full floating rear end, but I believe it's the same also as the 10.50. You need to double check your numbers. Whenever you go in, just type in your vehicle information and it'll tell you if it'll fit your vehicle. This is for the Sterling rear end that is found on these older body style Fords, and of course the newer Fords too. But I'm going to open this up and show you, even though this is used, it won't look used. Here's the gasket that came with it. This is a really nice material, a lot nicer than I thought it would be. Now, you don't have to use the gasket. The factory may not have had the gasket on there. You can use some sort of a silicone. That'll work just fine. And you can see the cover. It looks like new, but this is definitely used. It comes with the magnet inside, so that's nice. And it looks pretty good overall. There's no distortion. It's never been bolted down. It's just something that can't be sold as new because of, like this here, this little paint chip. So that's why I've got it. In addition to the differential cover in this case, which you may or may not need, you will need fluid. And in this case, this rear end is a 10.25 Sterling rear end. Now, this could be holding true also for the 10.50s, but you need to do a little research for yourself to make sure that you're buying what you need. In my case, I have a limited slip or a track lock or whatever you may want to call it. It's an L that's a designator on the tag that's underneath, and of course in this case it's also on the door code. So I have to buy something that says limited slip or LS. Now in this case it only calls for an 80 W90, but I wanted to go with synthetic, and the reason is because this lower number, this 75, will allow it to be more fluid whenever it's winter out here and I'm trying to get out of my driveway, because it's only two-wheel drive and sometimes this driveway gets a little slick, and that's after the truck's been sitting all night. So it could be 0 degrees out and that rear end's bone cold and I'm out here spinning trying to get out of the driveway. Now the 140, of course, that's going to be on the high side, so whenever it's hot out it's going to give you a lot more protection than that 90 weight would. In addition to you running a limited slip synthetic, you want to get the additive for the limited slip or track lock or posi track or whatever you want to call it. Now in my case I need 3.5 quarts, so I got 4 obviously, and I'm not going to use quite all of the last quart, so definitely 3 quarts and then a half. Let's go ahead and jump into the repair. I'll set you guys up underneath the truck and we'll take a look at what we got to tackle here. Alright guys, you can see why I ordered another differential cover. This one's pretty rusty. It's still solid, it's still, you know, not leaking or anything. And somebody has done some work in here in the past, because there's some gasket material here, some silicone of some sort. There's a clip here that holds the brake line. You'll have to bend that out of the way a little bit. This here is supposed to be connected to the brake line also, to hold this wire up and out of the way. I'll have to look at that. And of course all the bolts. Now there's a tag here, an ID tag that's on this side. This is important. This is really important to stay with the truck, so the people that buy the truck in the future knows what the gear set is and what kind of differential there is. This one says it's a 410 and it has an L in the middle of everything, so that means it has a limited slip or locker or whatever you want to call it. It's not really a locker, it's just limited slip. It's a clutch setup. What I'm going to do is remove all the bolts here, leaving the top couple bolts in, and working on these here, and then loosening the top ones, and that'll allow the bottom to be pried a little bit and all the fluid to come out, which I'll have a drain pan. Now if you're trying to retain your cover, you got to be really careful with this, because you're going to probably cause your cover to distort when you do this. So at your discretion. There we go. Alright, now that that's as loose as it is, I'll go ahead and remove these two upper bolts. And here's the other. Alright, so let's go ahead and pull this off and take a look at it. Yeah, there's some foaming going on in there. This is hot because I just drove it, and there's a lot of crud buildup in here, but there's foam. I'm surprised how much foam. There should be anti-foaming agents in the differential fluid that keeps it from doing that. And I know that you can't see this, but there is a lot of soapy bubbles. Of course, that's not soap. I might have dodged a bullet as far as changing this fluid, even though it didn't act like it needed it. I'm just feeling in here to see if there's any particles or anything like that. And yeah, this is older fluid. It hasn't been done in a while. Now I've got to inspect the ring gear and make sure that it's not overly worn. And you know what? It looks really good. It's not knife edged. It's a nice even wear pattern. Wow. I'm really surprised about that. Usually I get some sort of a chipped tooth or something like that, and there may be one if I spin this rear end around, but for the most part this looks a lot better than I expected. So at this point is a lot of housekeeping. You have to take all the gasket material off of the differential, and then the new cover, of course, that I have, I don't need to do anything with, but if you're going to reuse your cover, you have to clean the gasket surface on that too. Alright, so I got some rags stuffed in here, and I got some brake cleaner. So what I'm going to do is just spray this down and let it accumulate on the rags. And once I think everything's dry, I might take the air gun and blow around inside here a little bit. Once I think everything's really dry, at that point I will pull those rags out, and then maybe stuff in another set of clean rags and try it a little bit more. So let's do that. I'm going to have to move the camera or cover it up so it doesn't get jacked up with this brake clean. So I got it really clean. I scrubbed this down with brake clean after I scratched it to get the silicone off that was used, or the RTV. And everybody has their own way of doing it at this point. I'll tell you the way that I do it, and I have never had a problem ever. There's a stuff called Indian head. You mechanics have been out there for a long time, you know what it is. And I have a Permatex brand of Indian head. I'll coat this surface with Indian head, and then I'll place the gasket. Then I'll put Indian head on my differential cover, and then place that on there and go ahead and torque the bolts down. So let's jump into it and I'll come back. Okay, so I got it all covered, and I cleaned up the bolts just with the wire wheel to make sure that all the silicone was off there, or RTV from before. I did blow out these holes earlier to make sure that these things would clamp correctly without being interfered with whenever I torque them down. And now I need to get my wrench ready with a bolt in it, and I'll also get one in my hand, and we'll go ahead and put the gasket on the cover in this case, since the cover's just sitting here in front of me. And we'll go ahead and get this thing up here now. I've got all the bolts started by hand, except for this one that was on my wrench. I've got Indian head or Permatex gasket on the gasket itself. Now I'm going to do some cross torquing with the wrench, and then I'll actually do a torque with my torque wrench of 32 foot-pounds. So let me go ahead and run these in, and then I'll go to the front and pull the speed sensor off that this wire is hooked to. And then there's a plug on the front that you fill the differential with, and once stuff starts coming out of that plug in the front, then you know the rear end is full. It's kind of a self-leveling thing. I'll show you that. Okay guys, so here we are on the other side, and this is the sensor that I was talking about. Sorry about that. Camera's right in my way. But the sensor is right on the top, right here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull apart the tangs that hold it on. Excuse all the noise because we got rush hour traffic out there and we're going to hear it. Okay, so you can see here's the plug. Nothing special, just two wires. And then here's the sensor up top. Now what I'm going to do so I don't drop anything down inside, I'm going to spray this off with brake clean to get most of the dust off there. I could use my air gun and I might do it still, but let me go ahead and do this first. This plug right here, this is the fill plug. This is where you're going to fill it up at. So let me go ahead and jump into that, and I'll show you what's required. It's a square just like your ratchet would go into the socket. Just pretend that's a socket. Now sometimes these things are really tight and very hard to get out, but yeah, like this one might be that. So I have a little breaker bar, and hopefully this will get it out because this is where I need to fill it. There we go. Okay, so it came loose. I'm going to do one more turn with the breaker bar here. There we go. Now I feel pretty confident I can do it with this little ratchet. Now if you're just checking your rear differential fluid, this is all you have to do is just loosen this plug, and then whenever you pull the plug, some should come out and run out here. If not, just put your finger in there, and if you can just barely dip your finger down and the tip of your pinky has some on there, then you know you've got it topped off. I'm going to reposition the camera also. Alright, so now you can see the wrench on there and the bolt. Let me go ahead and break it loose. Didn't feel like it wanted to break loose very well. Let's go to my ratchet. Yeah, there we go. There you go. It looks identical. So I'll clean this bolt up also, like I need to with the drain plug. Okay, now I know it's a little dark, but we're going for this right here. Let's go ahead and try to pry this out easy. We don't want it to break. About 5 minutes has passed and I'm working this out. I'm finally getting some progress on it, and again I'm just moving it ever so slightly back and forth, and there, finally, yay! It finally come loose. This is what the speed sensor looks like, and you can see how close the ring gear rubs up against that. I want to make sure that I clean all this up really well, and make sure that nothing has fallen down in here and has caused any kind of a blockage to where this doesn't go in and seat very well, because it does need to be really close to that ring gear. Alright guys, I apologize. I forgot that the time was turned back and I'm running out of daylight. I wonder why it was so dark. I mean, I normally shoot my videos this time of day, and I thought it was kind of strange. Alright, so I'm pouring it in. I don't know if you can see it, but I guess I could have gotten this angle earlier if it wasn't for the fact that I have a light in here now and the camera. And this is just the process here. There's nothing really you can do. This is the way it's been done for years. I'm sure you could buy some kind of a tool that pumps it in or something like that, but this is really the only time that I ever have had to fill in this manner this amount of fluid. Now I do transaxles on mowers and that, excuse me, but they don't take that much fluid, so just ignore all this crap that's out here. That's just what leaked from up top, and you look for something to run out here. The last bottle, and we're definitely going to see some coming out with this bottle. Alright, so let's go ahead and squeeze in. And again, as soon as we start seeing some come out this hole right here, we need to quit putting it in, because it's just going to come right back out again. Oh, there it is. All right, just let that run. Let's see. Got a rag here to catch this. Put the sensor back in. And again, it's a tight fit, so we're going to have to wiggle it down in there to where it's seated. And right now I'm putting a little RTV on the bolt because it is exposed to fluid. Start this bolt as best as possible. Alright, so now I can plug this back in. Make sure there's no dirt in there or anything. And wiggle it on. There we go. Make sure the clips engage. Now back to that right there. And looks like it decided to stop. Well, there's still a little bit trying to come out. Put a little RTV on the plug and go ahead and start it up in here. All right, so now that is secured, I am going to get my brake clean and I'm going to spray all this down. That way it's easier to find leaks. This is nothing crazy as far as a repair, and I don't know how much shops charge, but it's something that if you want to do it right and you want to look at the rear end and see what kind of wear is there and other things, it's kind of nice that you can have the ability to do this. So hopefully you can follow along, see what the process is on this specific vehicle. And again, there was a couple extra steps that you don't have to do, such as pulling the vehicle speed sensor. If you have a 10 1/4 rear end on a Ford, I'm going to put the link down below. Click the link, it'll take you to the cover. And at that point you can look to see if there's a used one for you that's a little bit cheaper. Thanks for watching. Bye.